It's been widely reported in the press, although my source is the forcesnews.com website
Mm.
for all things British military.
Right, yeah.
That after a research study by the John Smith Centre,
Mm.
a non-partisan organisation at the University of Glasgow,
Yeah.
and in 2016 to 29-year-olds, that half of young adults would not enter in the army and fight for their country
Mm.
if a war broke out. However, 38% said they would fight, but depending on why they should,
Mm.
depending on, and 12% said that they weren't sure.
Yeah.
Now, of course, this was not enough for me.
Mm.
I had to find out if these numbers have always been the same
Yeah.
over the years. And funnily enough, there are no numbers recorded since the 60s about the subject, since 1960s.
Mm.
That to me was strange at first until I realized that all the quotas for the army were always filled, and so
Mm.
basically there was no need for said research.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had to look at when the phenomenon, uh, when the saw its beginnings,
Mm.
and came up with two reference points. The first is in 2004, when youngsters were asked if they were proud to be British, and a staggering 80% said yes back in 2004.
Yeah.
So I imagined that it was from that moment in time to this that something must have happened to reach the numbers of present day.
Mm.
Uh, a decent eye opener was a post that came up on Reddit of all places. Right? Somebody noticed that up until 2010, youngsters were signing up.
Mm.
But after that point, the numbers started to flag and asked the forum why.
Mm.
So somebody posed
Yeah.
this question on Reddit.
Yeah.
One of the replies mentioned that Afghanistan took the wind out of many sails.
Mm.
Also, in a changing world, many people are looking in Civvy Street for their qualifications.
Yeah.
It used to be that you would join up, get an education, and travel the world.
Yeah.
But nowadays, you can very much do all that at a tech college and having in your hands a Ryanair flight ticket.
Mm. Yeah.
Also, red tape created by the company Capita, who was given the contract for sign-ups to the military, was cited, with some youngsters being put on hold for 2 years before being contacted after their application. Because when you when you
Yeah.
make it
Yeah.
when you
Yeah. Yeah.
use a third party, a private company, they start putting red tape everywhere
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Justify it. Yeah.
start complicating it just to
Yeah.
complicate it.
Yeah. Justify their existence. Yes.
So it looks like once a trend sets in, just like in fashion
Mm.
or in pop music, you can't be the bee's knees forever
Mm.
unless, like Madonna, you reinvent yourself and make yourself more available.
Yeah.
So that's where the British Army has itself these days, that nobody's interested anymore
Mm.
because it just isn't drawing the crowds in.
Right. Yes. Well, yeah. As you were speaking, my mind is whirling about my personal experiences. Yeah, with this
I
subject.
hope so. I
Yeah.
hope so.
Yeah. Yeah. I can think. Um. Yeah. I mean, in the mid 90s. Um. Let's just put my career in the field I was in was a little bit on hold, or went a bit awry. Not for anything I'd done wrong. I just managed. I tried to get myself promoted and managed to promote me into a job that ended up being killed off a while later. Okay, yeah. So yeah, and I was trying to get work back in my own industry again. But then I heard an advert on the radio. Funny enough, yeah, people used to listen to the radio, the wireless. Yeah, um, I think it was local radio. Where was it? It would have been a commercial radio, and it said, given I was in my mid-20s at the time, up to I think it was 25, the military, and which was considered old, was prepared to take on people because they had a shortfall. And young man like me, reasonably fit and healthy, some intelligence were required. So I thought, oh well, I had nothing. Obviously you're on the interview trial, you're trying to get another job. I thought, well, let's go and talk to the recruitment agent, thinking that that I walk in the place and within minutes I'll be marched out the door again, so to speak. Yeah. Not straight down to anywhere else, but just, oh, we don't want you, it's people like you. Well, anyway, I'm waiting in the waiting room, and there was a couple of 16-year-olds there. Oddly enough, yeah, must be about 60. Yeah, I think so. I overheard them, and the recruiter sergeant's there thinking, yeah, and they're saying, oh, we run 6 kilometers a day, and giving it all the biggie. Yeah, I mean, when you see a 60, yeah, 16-year-old.
Aren't they better off in the Boy Scouts?
Well, that's it. I mean, okay, they do take 16-year-olds on. Yeah, there must be 60, 80. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, and obviously 16-year-olds look skinny, and it's plausible they probably did run. I mean, when I was 16, I ran everywhere or did every. Yeah, you can do, or you can stay on the sofa all day and not put on an ounce of weight. Yeah, a kilo of weight. Sorry, where we are now. Yeah. Um. Anyway, I'm sitting there. I'm a little bit overweight. I like my life a bit. Um, and the recruiter sergeant looks at me and he said, "How old are you?" I said, "Well, I heard the radio and up to 25." He says, "Oh, no, no, come on," because I thought if he speaks to me like he's speaking to these young lads, I'm walking out anyway. I'm I don't need that. Yeah. Anyway, it was it was almost sit down, have a cup of tea, and a couple of biscuits, which I didn't really need because I was out here anyway. And he looked at me and he said, "Yeah," he said, "Look, okay." And I've got some engineering qualifications. So the guy was almost getting quite excited at that point. Yeah. And said, how would you fancy going in the Royal Engineers? Yeah. Which I thought, oh, that sounds like a good number. Um, and there is a point to all this. It's sort of had selling the job to me. Yeah. And he sort of said, he was talking and he looked at me, he said, I can see that you don't run 6 kilometers a day. I said, yeah. How did you guess? He said, yeah, the chair almost collapsing underneath you, real military humor sort of thing. Yeah. Um, he said, okay, so you're not the fittest. Don't worry, we'll get you fit. Yeah. And then it's explained to me. He said, we'll take you away. We'll put you 6 weeks basic training. Yeah. And we'll see if you're what we want. He said, be warned, we'll take you into the barracks. We'll shave your hair. Yeah. We won't give you a gun in the first day. Yeah. You're going to have to prove that you deserve a place in our army, as it were. Yeah. And I went through quite a process and I got to it and I did what they call the idiot test. Yeah. And he looked at me and he said, are you prepared to kill someone?
You passed. He said, you passed. You're an idiot.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah, yeah, that's it. Well, yeah, they actually, to be quite honest, all this, I mean, yeah, they will grade you at that point when they want you in the military, or that they'll see where your best potential is. But I had qualifications. I had sitting guilds and things like that in engineering. So, yeah, so it wasn't, I just walked off the street. I had everything to prove who I was. And he, yeah, he just spoke to me and basically sold me the job. And I actually had a start date to start my basic training. Then I found another job in the military. But one thing he said to me when I first walked in the room, why is it taking you so long to come to us? Yeah. In other words, why didn't you join up sooner? I said, well, I've never been unemployed before since I was 18. Yeah, 16 or 18. I've never been unemployed. He says, all right, fair enough. You've been honest. Yeah, he praised me for my honesty. The one thing he told me, because you're an older recruit, we'd expect you to look after the the younger guys doing basic training. And I thought, who the hell's going to be looking after me? You know, I'm not going to enjoy being yelled at. You know, they can look after themselves. Yeah. But this is the whole attitude. It was a very, very, he made it quite clear. You're in the military. You might be thinking you're going as a tradesman. Doesn't matter if it's a medic or an engineer. I found out the Royal Engineers. I thought, well, I'm not going to be the first line. No, Royal Engineers going second, putting the cables and everything else behind the cannon fodder, as it were. But he told me, he said, one thing, you've got to be prepared. You think you're a tradesman, you're a soldier first. Yeah. You've got to hold, you might have to hold that rifle and use it the way that God intended it to be used. I think it was almost those words. But he sold me the job. He told me, we'll get you trained. You probably leave with a degree. You'll be far more valuable in Civvy Street if you want it. Yeah. And like you said, you'll go around different places. He said, but you have to be prepared that you will be going to a theatre of war. Possibly. Yeah. Not guaranteed. Not guaranteed you won't be. But yeah, the way it was all marketed and the whole slogan, British Army, be the best. Yeah. And it was all this, going to be the best, almost like the Russian adverts now. Yeah. You're going to see this. You're joining a man's group. Yeah. They were taking in women at the time, I think. But ultimately, yeah, he said, yeah. And asked me bluntly.
When my mother was
Yeah.
before I was born, she was in the army.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that women were always very good in logistics, medical,
The
everything else.
racks, the
Yeah, the
racks.
rest. Yeah, yeah. I mean, they kept it going, as it were. They weren't cleaners. They were, frontline people that actually probably kept it better than a lot of men going. Okay. Um, but he just made it clear to me what it entailed. And to this day, I do wonder if I'd have actually made it through basic training, because I dipped out and I went to him in person. I didn't just phone him up. I went there in person and explained the situation because I thought
Yeah, but
this.
why? What's your experience? How does it reflect on the lack
It's
of
it's it
people
it's a
applying?
it's the recruiting process and how it's sold and how it was done. And yes, I was patriotic. I grew up in a time that um, that we lived through the Falklands War. We knew about the first Iraq War. Yeah, they had a recruitment drive. I heard this advert on the radio. That was quite inspiring. Yeah, inspired me enough to go down to the local recruitment station. Yeah, or office when these things are accessible. And that's what I'm saying. And it was kind of exciting. Um, we did live in as I said, I'll get to the point. We lived in a time that was more, this was 90s, not late. Yeah. It was a time that was more, we were patriotic. I mean, today is St. George's Day. Yeah. I've got a flag flying up in Brazil, the flag of St. George on my balcony. Yeah. Nobody's criticizing me or saying it's got to be taken down. Yeah. Um, every government minister and MP pretty much was behind Britain is great sort of thing. Yeah. There's a whole different ethos. And again, with the recruitment, you joined the military, you knew what you were going into. Yes, it was still sold as a bit of glorified sports club. Yeah. You get to play football or you play sports and all that. The whole impetus when you're not doing anything is to be fit and healthy and be a team. Yeah. Um, I do think that has gone out of the UK. Yeah. I can't speak for other countries. I'm going to speak for the UK. When you see the youngsters now, um, they're happy to play war games. Yeah. On the PC and talk about these as though it's reality. They're not willing to actually go and participate in it for real. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to ask myself
Mm.
because I mean I've been away from the UK a long time.
Yeah.
However, on the outside looking in, I can see things that perhaps other peoples don't appreciate.
Mm.
So small things
Yeah.
like not doing PE at school anymore,
Mm,
or this latest one about letting the kids wear tracksuits going to school rather than a school uniform. I
mm.
mean, we had to tie up a tie.
Yeah.
We had to tie a
Actually, yeah.
tie,
My school did as well. Yeah.
and one of the things we had to do was to learn how to do that and take a pride in
Mm,
our appearance.
yeah.
That's what
Yes.
that's what the school uniform was about. It wasn't a case of all this socialist, everybody looks the same.
Yeah.
It's to make you look smarter so that you take a pride in your appearance.
That's it.
And
Mm,
once you take pride in yourself,
mm.
then you can this will reflect on the world around you.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly. Yeah.
unfortunately, what as the schools are now teaching you to be idle and to be a sloven,
Well,
that's how society is going to turn out.
well, they're teaching, let's put it bluntly, they're teaching you if you're Caucasian, you're responsible for a lot of the ills in the world and everything else.
Well, apart from that, that I don't bother about. That I
Yeah,
don't bother.
well,
That,
it's all part of the
that's
psychology.
indoctrination, but it's not. It isn't taking a pride in your own appearance.
Yeah, yes, I agree with you. I had a school uniform. It cost my parents a bit of money to kick me out in it. And if I damaged anything on it, my mother went absolutely berserk at me. Yeah, but we had a black blazer, black trousers. We had a we even had a school badge here that said underneath it, God's servant first, because I went to St. Thomas More High School. If you know the history of St. Thomas More, I know some people, yeah. Yeah, who was a patriot, really, to the cause of England. And yeah, okay, the religion. Um, it was a yeah, it was a different time. Okay, there may have been a lot of over jinglism. In the background, um, there was there was probably there was probably yeah more pride. Um, the school anthem, the school anthems some were sung, and also there was also occasionally you would sing the national anthem. Yeah,
When I was at school, like younger school, of course,
yeah.
we always had prayers in the morning.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we did. We went to Catholic school. We had an assembly three
And it
times a
doesn't
week.
matter
Yeah,
if you were black, white, Muslim,
yeah,
although there were fewer.
yeah,
Everybody said prayers. If you don't want to say prayers, you don't say prayers. If you don't want to close your eyes are open.
yeah, yeah.
You know.
I went to a Catholic school, and there was no mistaking that it was a Catholic school. Yeah,
Mm.
and you said prayers. Most 80-90% of the school population were Catholics.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
yeah.
It's a Catholic school, sir.
Well, yeah, but actually, we I was there with one Hindi lad. He's a great lad, actually. He's all right. His parents wanted him to go to a Catholic school because he couldn't go to a Hindi one or something. Yeah.
Well, they,
Because they liked the idea of him. Yeah, the Catholic. It was like a secondary option, but they wanted him to go to a place that did have a faith and respect. But we're getting off the main film here. But yeah,
you know,
there was a bit more. There was a bit more. Our teachers used to talk not directly about patriotism, but our English was talking about English or British history, English history, some pride, some bad things as well. When I was at school, the film Gandhi came out. Yeah. Which, when you look at it now, wasn't exactly a pro-British film, but yeah, it was a reflection on us. But yeah,
well, anyway,
yeah,
reflection on society has made it so that,
mm,
in my opinion, so that the recruiting figures of the British Army have fallen off a cliff edge.